Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Trader Merlin Show. Is your Tuesday edition. A wild Tuesday, I will say. A fun one. I had a good trading session out there today. A couple small little trades on S&P. Nothing too exciting, nothing to speak of. So the bigger plays that I'm excited about for my portfolio for Friday. We'll see how those pan out. Daniel, greetings from El Salvador. Please tell me you're down there looking at real estate. You got to give me some feedback and let me know what El Salvador is like, given all that's going on with their positive crypto stance and what they've done for their economy. I am definitely very excited to see El Salvador myself. Have not been there yet. Would like to go down there, but if it's anything like Costa Rica and that whole peninsula, I would imagine it's probably pretty darn nice. So I hope you're having a good time down there. I'll start off with the overall news, which is, and yes, by the way, I was told I look like Captain Kirk today, so I guess I do. Google's bad beat. And this is why you really have to be tough or careful with earnings. They beat earnings. Their earnings numbers were not bad. They actually came out better than expectations. They were supposed to come out with $2.12. It came out at $2.15. And like, oh, this is good. Yay, Google's going to do fine. And lo and behold, wasn't received that way. So I look at the Google side, and this is thank you to AI for building this one for me. This is Midjourney, but you've got Google spelled correctly there, but I like the second one. Oh, I put them both the same. Never mind. I had one of them was with 3 O's. It was like Google, like really bad. Anyway, let's talk about the earnings blues here and what happened with Google obviously getting crushed in the after hours, down 7%. And this, coming on the heels of a lot of Magnificent Seven stocks, which have performed rather well and posted good earnings. So let's break down some of the bigger numbers here. First off, their revenue was $96.47 billion versus an expectation of $96.56. So they missed slightly on their revenue numbers. I say slightly, it's $100 million, but still slightly. Their earnings per share, that did beat expectations. They were expecting it to be $2.13. It came out at $2.15. So all in all, that was good there. My theme music didn't come on today. All right. Not sure why that happened. Not sure why we didn't get our theme music today. Just jump straight into it. That's what it is, Oliver. Thank you for the feedback, though. I'll check that one out. So just with the first two, don't like the fact that revenues were down, but the fact that EPS was up, that's nice, right? It's down 9% now. Yowzers. We'll look at that in just a second. Some of the other numbers that were noteworthy. YouTube advertising revenue, $10.47 billion. They were supposed to come out with $10.23. That was a nice beat as well. Cloud revenue, that one missed. They were expectations were $12.9 billion. They came out at 11.96. So just barely missing that one. And then traffic acquisition costs were less than expected. So all in all, it's kind of a mixed bag. The reason you're seeing it down so much, and we'll bring up that chart for you right now. That's coffee, which we got to talk about today too. Man, I picked the wrong time to start getting into coffee. Google's chart looked absolutely incredible, ripping to the upside, and I think a lot of people might have anticipated that, this is the market leaking news or knowing about stuff before it happens. Well, as you can see, down 18 points in the after-hour session, 8.74% slide. Here's your 5-minute chart so you can get a better picture of it, and I apologize. I know some of you are in pain right now on this one. I saw some long call comments. At least as you're only long the premium. You've only getting out the premium as opposed to getting smacked on the underlier here. So, yeah, this is pretty ugly. Now, I was looking at the NASDAQ futures, but before I jump into that, I'm going to put a little horizontal line right where you're at currently to give us at least the low point here, and then go back to the daily just to see, does this line up anywhere? And it looked to me like it's just kind of right near this lower end of consolidation, which to me would be the logical stopping point. I kind of would have anticipated it stopping right around $93, maybe $94. And then you have the $193 to $194. And then you have the 190 mark, which is kind of this consolidation point here. So that might be something I'm going to look at tomorrow. We'll see. I may actually look at selling some puts at the money tomorrow morning. We'll see. I don't think these numbers were that bad. What it really boils down to was everybody setting expectations that were very high. And this is one of the challenges coming in late in the earnings season, well, later than some of the other Magnificent Sevens, because the expectations have already been set by these other firms. So analysts modify their expectations and expect Google or Alphabet to say certain things, give certain forecasts, and have certain numbers. And if they miss on any of those, all of a sudden it takes a drubbing. And that's what happened out there today. Grand scheme of things, we're back down to where that horizontal line is on your screen. So I would say a decent pullback, right? Nothing overly dramatic, certainly on a one-day gap that is bad, but All in all, I would look at Alphabet as a potential buy on this one. As Toby says, time to sell some puts maybe. Yeah, I'm thinking that as well. We'll look and see where it opens up tomorrow. You never really know with these markets. Last night, as you guys know, I had SMCI, and right as the market closed, SMCI shot up 9% on news that they're going to come out with some earnings announcement on the 11th of February, which is just another week away. So wildness about in the after-hour session, but when you came down to the market opening, let me just bring up SMCI so you guys can see what happened last night. Here's SMCI, and you can see that last night, in this yellow box on the right-hand side of your screen, we had this huge surge up and pretty much gave it all back by the time the markets open. And that could very well be the same thing we see happen here with Google or Alphabet. Obviously big pain point right here. We probably were going to cover some of this, but who knows? If we do end up opening down around these levels, I certainly, for myself, would be interested in potentially selling some puts here and acquiring Google at maybe some lower levels. Because one thing we can know for sure, that if it does open up at 190 or anywhere around that area, there's going to be a lot of panic selling, a lot of pain, and that's when people jump onto the put action. And I'm happy to help alleviate that pain. I'll take those shares from you if you're hurting that bad. Is it over? I don't know. And Andres pointed this out. Says too much capex on AI. That's what was said at the last conference, at the last earnings announcement. Actually, maybe the last two. They've talked about capex expenditure for AI. What's disconnecting over here? Oh, my ledger. Sorry about that. Too much expenditure for AI, and I didn't have time to listen to those numbers to see exactly what they were talking about with regards to AI. I just looked at the hard numbers. If I have more time tonight, I'll dig deeper into that to see exactly what happened. But all in all, not great for Google. Now, if I look at the ETF side here, and at least the index is, and go to look at the NASDAQ, it's pulling down a little bit, but I would say not having that much of an impact on the NASDAQ at this moment. Now, obviously, Google is in the top 10 on the NASDAQ 100 index and the S&P, but they're really not having a dramatic reaction to it. If you notice the earnings calendar here, you certainly had other companies that reported earnings that also didn't fare very well. As you can see here, AMD, they beat earnings as well, and an ugly day for them after hours. 5% slide there. You had PayPal, which is down 13% after hours, and they beat earnings by a good margin. I'll bring up PayPal here and AMD so you can both check those out. Here's PYPL. I mean, just absolutely getting slaughtered for PayPal in the after-hour session, during the trading day. Remember, they reported pre-market, which was a weird one. Normally, they don't do that. Let me make sure I'm correct on this. Yes, they reported some really weird hour of the morning, which is unusual for that. But anyway, they were down 13% on the day. From a technical perspective, if we could look back and see, are they coming into any area of interest? I would argue yes. Right, we're coming right back into the origin of this last really big rally up. Down around that 77 mark would be a pretty darn decent level. So I got a couple on my radar. Maybe catch those falling knives, if you will. Others on this list, you had Merck. They beat earnings down 9%. So really it seems like a lot of pain going on for these companies that are beating earnings. And you said CRM, did they report today? I didn't think CRM reported today. I could be totally wrong. CRM? Yeah, they don't report until March 4th. Yeah, I thought we were in the middle of one there. So all in all, pretty ugly. If you look across the board here, there's a lot of other talk and strange conversation about what might be causing these markets to crash. And I tried to bring up a picture of RFK Jr. as he goes to become the head of the Health and Human Services. There's a lot of grumblings about what he might do for different medical companies, for food companies, and talking about might be some opportunities there. This is a question that came to me from one of the viewers asking if there's opportunity maybe shorting some of these drug stocks and food stocks. And I would argue yes. Depending on how he decides to steer that boat over there, there might be some problems for some food companies, although I don't know off the top of my head what might be impacted there. But, this I think is a great way to view it, right? As you look at these markets for opportunities, a big change like having someone like RFK with his particular viewpoints come in could certainly impact companies. And it's the same thing for all these cabinet positions that are being appointed right now, which makes it rather exciting. Now, we'll go back to these charts here and keep digging in, but I want to dive into this one. This one I watched live today. I was actually really excited to see this. I was hoping for a much better talk track. It was an absolute dud. A colossal waste of 30 minutes of time. So David Sachs, who is the crypto czar, basically came to a meeting with the other members who are all congressional members, talking about the crypto digital assets roadmap. And he's supposed to be the AI czar too, but it was all pretty much crypto focused. And he started talking about how we need to put in frameworks and roadmaps and guardrails, stuff that I've been saying for years now on this program. So literally nothing was new, nothing was groundbreaking or revealing about the hand that the government might be playing. It was an absolute goose egg. Now, near the end, one of the reporters asked him specifically, what about a strategic Bitcoin reserve? And I did like his answer, although I thought he could have done a better job explaining it. He says, one of the top things that the president is asking us to do is to look at a strategic Bitcoin reserve, and that's one of the first things we're going to be analyzing is that strategic Bitcoin reserve and what the possibilities of it are. So that was the biggest news that came out of it. But honestly, this whole hearing roadmap piece was a total waste of time today, in my opinion, and didn't really help much. I think, as you can see here, you can notice right on a 5-minute chart when they were talking. As we went into that announcement, everyone is feeling optimistic, and ever since then, it's just been in a free fall. Quite literally a free fall for Bitcoin here. If you go from the 11:30 when their talk started, there you go. We were down 4.47% for Bitcoin, and other cryptos are some are actually in the double digits. Double digits. Toby says, I don't think they're going to announce it before they're starting to buy. Yeah, but they've known about this for a long time. I mean, these committee people, they've been in talk with the president for some time. So my guess is they've already started to accumulate. I have a friend that was asking me do I think that yesterday's giant sell-off in crypto was an orchestrated event to help institutions buy more? I guess, I don't really, I didn't show the chart. I'm sorry. I don't know why I'm messing up here today. I'll go back and show that chart just a sec. There's your Bitcoin chart. I don't even know what I was showing you then. This is that Bitcoin chart down 4.47% right after that meeting happened. And it was, like I say, I was really eager. I'd like to hear some talk about a strategic Bitcoin reserve or more clarity as far as what's a security, what's not. And there was none of that. There literally was none of that happen whatsoever. It was all talking about everything we already know. We're going to do this, and we're going to give more clarity. It's like, yeah, okay, just start working on it. And by the way, just so you know, at that meeting, what came out was also they're starting to put the pieces in place. Now, mind you, they've only been together for a couple of weeks now, although they've known they're going to get appointed for this position for quite some time. They're making excuses already, which I noticed at this press conference, which were they're waiting for everybody to get appointed before they can move forward, which is a total joke. They should be moving forward right now as is, and as people come on, you bring them up to speed. But let's go, let's move. So the other part, which I didn't have a graphic of here today. And it wasn't really market pain. It's this graphic here. I think we should. I'm going to change the title here. I've been kind of cracking up at this one over the past couple of days, watching how I'm going to call this Musk pain. Watching Twitter just blow up, and I think now become very polarized in saying which side of the aisle are you on? Are you on the side of efficiency and cleaning house and accountability with regards to government spending, or are you on the old school side of thing and just afraid of Elon Musk? Now, what you're going to see here soon are lawsuits against the president. You're going to see lawsuits against Elon Musk because apparently they are overstepping their boundaries and not, some people are saying it's unconstitutional what he's doing. I, for one, am a fan of cleaning house, if you will, and getting rid of wasteful spending, although sometimes you might go too extreme. But I think you can always add back in later on. So this has been a piece that's been very interesting. His tweets have been, I don't know how you say them, inflammatory at times, but it's just more and more drama going forward, which I'm pretty excited to see. They're waiting for something to do something? Yeah, 100%, Lisa. That's exactly right. I just feel like they've been sitting there for a while doing nothing, and it's like, okay, well, you know what you're supposed to. This is not that hard. This is really not that hard to get accomplished, whether you're defining what a security is, what a commodity is, or writing the rules and framework. I'm sure you would all agree that if I personally sat down with a couple of industry experts in the crypto space, a couple of regulators, and maybe bring in some traditional finance people and sat us in a room, within 2 days, we could have a clear understanding of what's a security, what's not a security, and understand some of the basic framework rules that we could start to implement. And this would not be something that takes 6 months to a year, but unfortunately, even though we hear about the cutting of bureaucracy right now, there still will be some bureaucracy on these ones. So it is definitely impacting the crypto space. You can see a lot of them have just been tanking ever since that. I mean, they all look the same. I mean, this is just a pretty large decline in that short window of time since that speech. And really the speech was positive, but they didn't say anything that people wanted to hear. Pick a Bitcoin high for the year. I have to do some more thinking on that one as far as where I think that we're going to end the year. When we're going to be the high for the year. As far as Bitcoin high for the year, I've thought about this quite a bit, and I don't know if I have a definitive number. You know, I do think we're going to see some blow-off highs, meaning really aggressive moves to the upside and just kind of vaulting to the upside. I think that MicroStrategy is going to have a big impact on this. I do think we'll see a strategic Bitcoin reserve, although I do believe that that's probably going to come out in, a few months once we get the dust to settle and all the people appointed and all the people finally get to their offices and go back to work and Musk does more cutting and people keep shouting and fighting and yelling, then I think we'll get it. So my guess is the real big move, like the big stuff, will probably happen. I'll put a vertical line. I think you're probably looking right around April is where you'll start to see definitive action, definitive talk tracks, definitive things in the crypto space, and potentially that Bitcoin reserve. Now, from that point, that's where I think we're going to go parabolic. And now let's see. I hate drawing lines on here because I end up, leaving them on here forever. But let's go and do that. There is your put a trend line on there, and I think that we'll just do it from today's price action or somewhere near it. That's when I think you get the big run up. And again, I think we're headed up to this 250 mark, as I mentioned. I do think we could realistically go higher. I'm starting to think that we won't see that 4-year cycle repeat where we get that big down move here. Why just Bitcoin in the strategic reserve? Great question. Oh, great. Thank you for baiting me with that one. Why just Bitcoin in the strategic reserve? Because it's one of the few. Now, there are others that may qualify. If you look at this grand spectrum of things, last time we checked, there was 30 million different cryptocurrencies. It's just insane how quickly they're producing them. It's the main characteristic of why this has such value. I brought this up the other day, is it's not controlled by anyone. There is no one entity that controls oil. There's no one entity that controls gold. There's no one entity that controls different commodities that we use as a strategic reserve. With Bitcoin, no one controls it. If you look at Ripple, someone controls it. It's totally controlled by Ripple Labs. They can manipulate the price supply all they want. They control all the data. It's nothing but a big company masked as a digital asset. That's all it is. It's not decentralized at all. Ripple is centralized. So Ripple has no place being in it. Now, could Ripple be in our sovereign wealth fund? Yeah, and it might actually make it into the sovereign wealth fund. But as a strategic reserve asset, it needs to be something that's not controlled by anybody. Therefore, manipulation's out of the question. It needs to have limited supply. You look at Ripple. Ripple does have limited supply. However, because it is a they can simply create more. If they wanted to, they could create more very simply by modifying the code. With Bitcoin, you have this perfect system that won't get modified because it's decentralized. In theory, for those who want to know, in theory, you could rewrite the code to Bitcoin and make more than 21 million. It is possible. However, you'd have to have a vote of all of the members of the Bitcoin network, and none of them are going to say, yes, add more. That's what gives it its value, is knowing there's only 21 million. So if you look at something like Ethereum, would Ethereum be a strategic reserve? No. Ethereum is unlimited. It's infinite, right? Same thing with Dogecoin. It's unlimited. It's infinite. So that's the reason why Bitcoin, it should be a strategic Bitcoin reserve. The only other ones I would say would come close would be something like Litecoin, because Litecoin operates off the similar thing as an emission curve, where it slowly releases over time. It's very spread out, although it's more centralized than Bitcoin. So that's why Bitcoin should be an SBR, a strategic Bitcoin reserve. Yeah, exact, Steve. They won't add more. They will not add more Bitcoin. You have tens of thousands of miners around the world that make a living because the price of Bitcoin is high. If you all of a sudden said, let's double the amount of Bitcoin, what good does that do for anybody? Remember, you don't have to buy a whole Bitcoin, right? You can buy a Satoshi, a small little piece. So it doesn't really matter how many there are. You don't want to add more. The value is locked because that 21 million. So there will never be more than 21 million. The network would never allow it. Never. Let's see. What else we got? Wait, there was pick Bitcoin high. They're not just secure in their insecure positions. Coin, MicroStrategy, Mara, and others are down. Yep, and they're all going to be down. They're all going to go with it, Lisa. Anytime you have big news like this for crypto, the whole thing's going to move up and down. And of course, when you look at these miners, let's go look at Mara. Mara would profit significantly from a strategic Bitcoin reserve. Why? Because they're mining it. Now it was down 1.67 today. It's down 1.25% in the after-hour session. So not like it's getting gutted, right? But it is certainly feeling a little bit of impact there. You can look at all the ETFs like IBIT. IBIT was looking good today. I was excited for it. Now we're back down to 55. We were looking pretty nice today. Your intraday price action brought IBIT all the way back up to 57.43, which I was happy with. But now we're back down another $2. Man, crazy slide. My Bitcoin dust is growing nice. MicroStrategy could sink Bitcoin. There is talk about this. Yeah, Margaret, there is. So let's bring up the MicroStrategy chart here. So MicroStrategy, and I think Michael G asked this question. So Michael G was asking, do I know about STRK, which are the preferred shares of MicroStrategy? Yes. So STRK, which I have not been able to find anywhere, have not been able to buy it anywhere, is interesting. But basically, you have this convertible share. It's preferred, which you can convert back into shares of MicroStrategy at some point. You get yourself 10%. I think it's 10% yield on it. Represents is it 10 or 8? 10% or 8% yield in perpetuity. So you could buy this thing and just, let's say I'll say 8% because I think it is 8. And you would get 8% yield forever from this. And it's non-callable, which means that MicroStrategy they can't call it back and take it away from you, which is an interesting convertibility aspect that most preferred stock has, right? If all of a sudden it doesn't seem good business for the company anymore, they will call it back. MicroStrategy is not doing that with these strike shares. Now, is it good or bad? Well, I think it's actually good for MicroStrategy because what it means is more ways to raise money. It also enhances the price of Bitcoin over time, which again is why I've been so bullish. What's the main purpose of creating strategic Bitcoin reserve? Great question, Anders. Let me finish this thought before I lose it, and then I'll try to come back and answer that question. So strike is just another way for them to raise capital to buy more Bitcoin. Of course, with the issuance of new shares and selling those shares in the open market, that's even more money. So, really what you have here is just a catalyst and a machine that is designed to prop up the price of Bitcoin. I hate to say it, it almost sounds fraudulent, but that's what this is. The MicroStrategy just keeps issuing more money, buying more Bitcoin, driving the price of Bitcoin up. MicroStrategy's valuation gets higher, and then they sell more debt and rinse, wash, and repeat. Now, this is a pretty good thing if you're long Bitcoin. And now I'm long Bitcoin because I think I like the utility of what Bitcoin represents. At this point, though, if I was to get a tattoo, I might have to get Michael Saylor's tattoo because he is one of the primary catalysts for keep pushing Bitcoin's price up. Now, do we see this imploding? Could there be a problem? And the answer is absolutely yes. If there's a big slide in the price of Bitcoin for some reason, and this could be orchestrated, right? It could very easily be that BlackRock just says, here, hold my beer, and unloads their 600,000 Bitcoin all at once. It will rip down below the liquidation point for not only MicroStrategy, but thousands of people around the world that are leveraged, right? That's the concern of having one entity that has so much of an asset. They can manipulate that market, which is why I hate Ripple. If BlackRock were to do that, you would immediately bankrupt MicroStrategy because MicroStrategy would be forced to liquidate its Bitcoin as Bitcoin was imploding, and the whole system would come crashing down. Of course, it bounced right back up, but to me, that's a dangerous scenario. That it is on the realm of possibility. It's not like a 50-50 thing. This would be a slim chance, right? That's on your bell curve, you're looking at 3 standard deviations kind of probability to get to that type of scenario. So I wouldn't worry so much about that. What I'm more concerned with is the validity of all the actions that MicroStrategy is making, which we have talked about here in the program. I still don't have clarity as to where exactly he's buying all these Bitcoin, who he's buying them from, etc. And that makes me a little bit nervous, which is why I'm instead of doing the MicroStrategy strategy, I mentioned I opened this options account where I'm doing it with IBIT. I'll be using IBIT because that is actual Bitcoin. MicroStrategy is Bitcoin as well, but I don't know. I think it lacks the transparency of IBIT. So that's why I went with IBIT over MicroStrategy. Now, are there any MicroStrategy copycats? Yes, there are. Man, I cannot remember off the top of my head. There was a new one that came out a couple days ago. Something metals, mineral metals, something metals. Let me see if real quick if I can remember it. Metals, Bitcoin. I can't remember the name. I did read about one that came out just recently. They're doing $500 million. I even talked about it on the show, I think, or maybe it was in my crypto class. But yeah, there are copycats popping up, and there are more coming. There's definitely more coming, and I think the U.S. is essentially going to turn into one with the strategic Bitcoin reserve. Now, to the comment that came through here from Andres, and make sure I got it right, what's the main purpose of creating a strategic Bitcoin reserve? Well, one of the main reasons you'd have a strategic Bitcoin reserve is an asset that appreciates in value. So you have the value of the US dollar is just in constant sell-off. Granted, there'll be moves up in value over time, but usually the trajectory is down. If you hold something like gold over time, the trajectory is the opposite. So you're offsetting your weaker dollar with something that's actually growing in value. So what's the purpose, right? If you're a government, why would you want this? Well, a couple reasons. Let's say I run the sovereign country of Merlin. Great country, guys. It's going to be huge. If you move to Merlin and I had a strategic Bitcoin reserve, what I would be doing is I would be issuing money to you. I'd be selling bonds and raising capital, and I'd be taking that money and I'd be buying Bitcoin. That's what MicroStrategy is doing. MicroStrategy issues bonds, and they take that money and they buy Bitcoin with it, because what happens is they're driving the value of that Bitcoin up. So I issue as much money as possible because it just weakens that currency. So the Merlin buck would get lower and lower and lower and lower. But the value of my country would be getting stronger and stronger and stronger and give me a much more powerful position in the global economy. The other side to this is there's a lot of talk about we have a gold reserve and we have a Bitcoin reserve. And part of the conversation is get enough in our Bitcoin reserve and then start selling our gold in mass on the open market, because none of the other central banks have Bitcoin. They've got gold. So if you start unloading gold, you actually would do significant damage to those economies. So part of it is, number one, prevent that from happening to us with digital assets, but maybe we can be the catalyst for causing everyone to drive money into Bitcoin. So if I'm the sovereign country of Merlin and I start doing, buying Bitcoin and going through the MicroStrategy process, but as a government, and more countries adopt this, the price of Bitcoin is going to skyrocket, and I was first there to adopt. I've got the largest position. I will make the most money out of it. Part of the reason that Cynthia Loomis is pushing this agenda is we would like to see this strategic Bitcoin reserve increase in values enough that we start to pay off our debts with it and pay down our debt and actually get to the point we might actually have surpluses. Now, I think that's a very lofty goal, but I'll tell you what. If you have Trump and Musk, we'll just say Musk, because Musk is kind of the one I think is pulling most of the strings here, doing these massive cuttings. Now, I do think he's cutting some stuff he shouldn't, but I also see, in reading through the documentation, a lot of stuff deserves to be cut. The one that blew my mind was they spent $3 million on a study to see how fast a shrimp can run on a treadmill. $3 million for this, really? And that's just one little thing. There's dozens and dozens and dozens of other things they're wasting money on. If we can save, let's say, $1 trillion in expenses in the first year, and we can take those savings and put them towards a strategic Bitcoin reserve, we put ourselves in a pretty strong financial position as a country. So that's why they'd want to do it. It's to hedge your investments. It's to give yourself something of value, gold, oil, right? Those are things of value that can be sold on an open market, and Bitcoin. And if demand continues to increase, which is one of the reasons I've been so adamant about crypto, as I see demand increasing significantly, then that gives the U.S. a big power play. And by bringing in and opening the rules up here in America for crypto firms, you're bringing in all these jobs and businesses, which will further foster adoption, which drives up the price of crypto and digital assets. So I heard they spent money on musicals. Yeah, they spent not only musicals, all kinds of crazy music. It wasn't just regular musicals, yeah, I won't go into all of it because it'll definitely strike a chord with some people here. But there's a lot of stuff that I just don't think our taxpayer dollars needed to go to. And right now, you're hearing a lot of international countries are screaming and complaining. It's like, oh, our children are starving. That certainly was one component of USAID. That's not all of it, right? In there's so much waste, and I've always known this from other contributions, or when you give money to another country. Like if you send $1 million to a country in food, well, a lot of that doesn't even reach the end people. It goes to the higher ups who take that money for themselves, and at the end, very little actually goes where it's supposed to go. That's why I was reading a comment about putting the budgets and government budgets on blockchain. Now, that would change everything. If you had our government budgets, the IRS, you had the Treasury, the Department of Defense, everything was an auditable blockchain that they could click a couple buttons and get a full readout of where money went, we'd be a very different government today. Very different. Your pretension on Kyle Bass as potential head of the Treasury. Don't know. It wasn't supposed to be. It wasn't. The Secretary of the Treasury is Besant, not Bass. I got the whole list here of people. I got so many new names in my head. I don't remember Bass being in there. No problem, moderators. And again, that's an opinion, right? I could be wrong, and I know that there's some people here that probably think that Musk is going overboard, doing too much. I'm just in that camp of enough's enough. At some point, we need to stop all spending and then start again with a clear understanding of actually what we're spending money on, because it's like the tax code. The tax code's thousands and thousands of pages of stuff that's many, many years old, and some of it's probably so outdated it's not even relevant today, but just makes it a mess. Throw the whole tax code out. Rebuild one from scratch. It's now 5 pages. It would be so much better. And I think that's why our government's in such a bad place. There are people out there that are making tens of millions of dollars a year, and they're doing nothing. They're just taking some payment that's coming in for some service they're supposed to provide in their country, and they're not doing it. So let's start from scratch. Erase it all. Let's see. Before I hardly spent money on musicals. You got that. Some of those spending. I agree, Gary. I think there should be some people that end up going to jail. So yeah, Jeff, I don't know about Kyle Bass personally, so I can't make a comment there. Don't know. Let's go into more of our markets. I don't want to get enough of the opinions about politics and spending. It gets me all upset because it's just ridiculous. I've been saying this since I was a kid on how it just blows my mind. How can we keep amassing such epic debt? It's just bad business. Anyway. So there we are. Here's our Bitcoin price chart. This is obviously on the future side of things. Again, I'm not worried. I've been telling you for a while that it's really this 91,000 mark, but this yellow box is the absolute breaking point. If we get below that, then we're in some trouble. But for right now, I think we're actually okay on this one. You saw your 10-year today trickle down a little bit, 0.88%. Our yield right now for that 10-year is 4.513, and it's looking weaker. It hasn't fallen aggressively. Normally with a head and shoulders pattern like this, once it breaks that neckline and closes, which it did today, it should be a much more aggressive down move. But we just haven't seen it. It hasn't had that accelerated pain point for the yield, which fine. Hold right there, I guess. Crude oil was down 0.62% on the session. I guess call this a mess. We were debating this yellow box kind of holding. We can get rid of all this artwork now. This is all done. It's kind of now new uncharted territory here. What do we do with this one? If this was, in fact, a breakout and an uptrend, typically what I would want is for it to come back down to that zone right around 90 or 74 and then bounce. And it did not. So that leads me to believe that we're probably, again, headed down towards this $69 mark. I'll put a little temporary demand zone right there. But, I think you're headed down to that 60, 68, 50 will be the low point of that demand zone. And then, notice where you run into. We're right back into this sideways consolidation that we were in from September all the way through December, where it really doesn't do much around that $66 level. But I think that's where we're headed. I think we're headed back down there, particularly, again, if we open up more reserves and start drilling, which will probably happen. And who knows, with the tariffs that's going on with Canada, we're not quite out of the woods there yet, right? Obviously, we're hearing that Trudeau and Mexico and Canada are going to do things at the border to stop fentanyl, to stop immigration, illegal immigrants, etc. But we still have that chip in hand that could be dropped at any moment with regards to tariffs, and that, of course, could have an impact on the crude oil prices, but I do think you're going to see it go lower regardless. All right, top 5, dollar index. Nothing really dangerous here, other than we saw that huge shooting star yesterday that came all the way up to 110 on the dollar index and then erased it all in one session. We were down today 0.39%. Again, this is your target for it. If we do continue with this weakness, it's going to be at 107. So all in all, I think we're okay on the dollar index until we break that level. And then we go to our top 4. Commodities looking good. Gold looking fantastic. Another all-time high again. I mean, this is like a broken record. There's only one record that's more broken than this one, and that's coffee. Gold looking awesome, man. Gold was just trucking higher, $2,875 per ounce. I'm kind of bummed because I was at Costco over the weekend, and I could have bought an ounce of gold for, it was like $27.50. And I was debating actually buying the little gold ingots over at Costco, but I decided not to. The guy's standing at the front door selling them. That's just such a bizarre thing to me. Anyway, looking great. This, again, just reflects, I think, the uncertainty. These markets are uncertain. We have no idea what's going to happen tomorrow. You know, you hear every day, my routine used to be so simple. Was wake up. Before I went to bed, I already knew my levels, right? I knew kind of where I thought we'd bounce off of, where my supply and demand zones were, and kind of put that map in my head. But now, because there's so many news pieces dropping that are so from left field, and you go, whoa, how are we going to react to this one? Man, it creates kind of chaotic trading. It's stressful, more stressful right now than it's been in a long time, just because anything can happen, anything can change in a moment's notice, and I think that's why you're seeing gold benefit from this uncertainty in chaotic times. Now, our top 3, back to what it should be, indexes. You had the NASDAQ was up S&P was up 0.68% today, closing at 6,063. Technically, what's going on there? I mean, we're longer term, we're in an uptrend, but it just feels like you have this chaos going on, really, since December 16th is when it really was just kind of chaotic and not having any more clear direction. Gold's the same as eggs. Yeah. You know what? I remember, let me see if I can bring this up real quick, because I was talking to John Rowland of Bar Chart. He was telling me the bar chart actually has egg futures. They track egg futures. And I was like, really? They have egg futures? Let me see if I can find watch list. I thought I might have put it on my watch list. Did I put it on there? No, I did not put egg futures on there. Let me see if I can find. I'll show you with you guys so you can see it. Let's go futures and commodity. We're gonna go. It's gonna be under softs, right? See if I can find eggs. EGGS. I think it was something like EGGS was. There's an ETF out there. Here's your hen eggs. Let's go out. Let's do the March. Here's your chart of eggs. Come on. Why is my computer so slow? Full chart. Oh, obviously something's not working. I was looking for the free egg chart, but it would not show up there. Anyway, I'll bring it up another time. Yeah, it was pretty funny that there is actually a chart of some eggs. Yeah, you talking resale of eggs on eBay? Oh man, that's nuts. That's crazy. Good news for everybody today. Good news. So as you guys know, I'm a huge Fish fan, and Fish does this lottery for tickets, and you have to put in before they go on sale. It's designed to be for the real fans, not the ticket masters that scalp them and sell them to scalpers. I haven't won lottery tickets for Fish in 20 plus years, and I won lottery tickets to Fish for the show at the Hollywood Bowl all 3 nights. Pretty excited about it. Not the best seats in the world, but they go on sale tomorrow, so I'm going to see if I can buy some more and get better seats for tomorrow. But yeah, they're playing the Hollywood Bowl in April, I think end of April. So I don't know. That was good news for me. Good news for me. All right, I'm going to do one last one. EGG. I want to see that chart. Maybe I'll just look at this ETF. I did not know there was an ETF for eggs, but there you go. Oh, that doesn't look great. That can't be. EGGS. Eggs. No. Never mind. There's all kinds of different ones here, but I will move on because it's just wasting our time. Thanks, Lori. With fish, it does feel like it does deserve a congratulations because it's so hard to get tickets now. And the irony is most of you have no clue about the band. You're like, I never heard of this band. I'd rather get Taylor Swift tickets or Justin Bieber. Okay, Fish is harder to get than those guys for sure. All right, you want to know about Palantir? I don't really know what there is to say about this one, Les. From a technical perspective, I ain't touching it. My gut tells me that you're closing that gap. So if I had a gamble account, which I don't really have anymore, well, I do, but not enough to jump on this one, I would be looking at shorting Palantir. I read some articles talking about how their accounting is a little bit weird and people don't really trust the numbers from them and their growth numbers, but I don't know. I haven't dug deep into it enough. This is where I need someone like a Colin Tedder who dives deep into the financials of it, and he probably has a pretty good view on this one, but I certainly would expect this to start filling that gap. Let me draw on here real quick, and we'll put a line down below the low. And I wouldn't do anything until it gets below the low. Once it starts to close this gap, you'll get the momentum and speed. That's really $100.50. Is this the abandoned baby? It's not an abandoned baby yet. So an abandoned baby would be if it gaps down tomorrow and leaves this all by itself. That's an abandoned baby. All right. Really what I think you'll have would be maybe an island reversal. So my guess, an island reversal is similar to an abandoned baby. An abandoned baby would look like this with one candle. And let me draw another, I'll just draw a yellow box right here. Let's say tomorrow the candle looks like this, right? Oops. If you have this, that would be your abandoned baby because it's completely outside. What I think you're going to have happen will probably look something like this, where you have another day that just gets a little bit weaker, and then it'll break down. And ideally, it'll break down like this, where it clearly breaks the low. So this would just be a normal reversal. If you had this right here, that would be oh man, not an abandoned baby. It's called like a falling window or something. There's all kinds of weird names on it. All kinds of weird names. Laurie, so the 107's about the 110 pin. There you go. JDC1 is, thank you. Let's see. DJDC1. DJ. Not showing up here under the future side of things. I'll find it because I saw it when I was talking with John Rowland that day, and it was a pretty impressive chart. But you want to talk about impressive charts? I got one for you. This is the one that's just like, wow. Coffee. I mean, coffee has just it won't stop. The percentage move just from the lows just from 2025 already, from January 1st. Let's do January 1st, right? Yeah, I think that's a green candle. From the 1st of January to where we close out right now, you're up 19% overall. Crazy, right? That is a pretty impressive move. And I since I got a coffee maker for Christmas, now I'm drinking my mochas not all the time, but not only that shorter time, but we looked at this a couple weeks ago from those 2023 lows. We were down at 144, and it was pretty astounding to see how much it had moved. We were up 142%. Well, now you're up 168. Unbelievable. Now, let's talk about the inflation type of stuff for just a second here. I'm going to run through these softs here. Now, some of these commodities are like aggressively down, and others are aggressively up, which, is it a net wash? Well, I don't know all the weightings of it, but if you look here, we've got sugar, which was on a really big free fall. Well, for the past 2 weeks, been a nice move to the upside for sugar. Wheat has kind of been just flat, but now kind of turning the corner and slowly going up. I'm using my K-Cups twice. That's good, Steve. Maybe I should. I'm using espresso pods. Soybean was, getting pummeled for a long time, and all of a sudden, the past 2 months have been fairly bullish for soybeans. Cotton continuing to drift lower and lower. I mean, this looks like the chart of Siri. Remember when my guy Michael kept asking about Siri? Look at that chart. I mean, this chart is just appallingly bad. Well, I would say the same thing for cotton. It just keeps getting worse and worse and worse. You look at corn. Now, corn's been on a pretty significant rally up here just since those lows in August of 2024. For where we are right now, you're looking at a 37% increase. So commodities definitely feeling some volatility. You had lean hogs, so I'm happy that it's sold off a lot, but it is creeping back up and getting a little bit higher. We'll look at the most important one right here, which is live cattle. Live cattle also having a huge rally up, but over the past couple weeks starting to slow down just a little bit. And OJ slowed down as well after reaching some just incredibly lofty highs. Interesting story as to why that's happening, really just the sale of real estate. And lastly, cocoa, which was rocking, is kind of forming a pennant formation here. But commodities, at least the softs, you kind of got them all over the place with regards to market moves there. So thought that might be interesting. And natural gas I thought would be an interesting one as well. We've seen a pretty significant drop here in natural gas. And I think maybe as things get worse over there in from Canada, if we start having issues there, then we might see natural gas surge up even more. All right, now to make popcorn. Yes, make popcorn. Do what you can. I'm a big popcorn fan as well. Speaking of popcorn, I did get the popcorn trade of the day graphics back, so I'll implement that for our Amazon, which will be on Thursday. But let me real quickly go into your economic calendar and earnings calendar for tomorrow, as my boss is calling me, so I should probably take that call. Here's your economic calendar earnings calendar for Wednesday. A little quieter. You don't have any Magnificent Seven stocks, but you have Novo Nordisk, you've got Alibaba, you've got Disney, Qualcomm, ARM, which of course is a pretty popular one, Boston Scientific, and Uber. Uber has been, let's just bring up the Uber chart here. Certainly getting beaten down a little bit. It was up at about $85, bottomed out around 60, and now we're currently at 70 in the after-hour session. But Uber reporting earnings after market tomorrow. But really, it's all about Amazon on Thursday, in my opinion. Now, your economic calendar, we do have jobs data, JOBS. Let me refresh this because we did already get this data. Our jobs data for today was that JOLTS job openings. Notice much fewer jobs than anticipated. There was previously, and these numbers changed since last night. It was 8.1, now it's 8.16, and they dropped to expectations of 8.01, and then we came out at 7.6 million, which means a significant, that's 50, it's 500,000 jobs less than expected. That's interesting. Now, is that a question of those jobs being filled or those jobs being removed? That I don't know, but that's not the best data out there for our market. Let's go to our next piece here. Is for tomorrow. Now, tomorrow you have a couple of FOMC members speaking. You have Barkin, Goolsbee, and Bowman will be speaking at different times of the day. From an economic data perspective, we have the important ADP non-farm employment change. My guess is this will get revised by tomorrow. Right now, the expectations are we're going to see job employment increase from 122 to 148, and that would be a welcome trend. Let's go here and zoom into the recent data. We've been kind of stagnant here. So we go from 122 to 148. That would give us a nice little pop up, but still staying in this kind of sideways chop here. So that's one that a lot of people are watching on our second piece of jobs data. You also have crude oil inventories coming out as well at 7:30 a.m. And that pretty much rounds out your economic calendar for the day. So an exciting day. I enjoyed it. I did like the volatility in it. I did like the press conference from our newly appointed David Sachs, crypto czar, but is what it is. Hopefully it'll clear itself up in the near future, and we'll get some more clarity on crypto and the other pieces. Now, let's see. Wall Street Bet says, like cocoa, coffee is on the top tier of most manipulated commodities. The price is not in correlation with supply, but market sentiment. Coffee. Interesting. I don't know if I trust Wall Street Bets, but I do know it's can be easily manipulated. I mean, it comes from a couple locations, and you could definitely modify that one and manipulate it as well. Well, it's the Trading Academy boss at Trading Academy, and I actually told him to call me, but I don't think he knows I have the show. But Doug got me these shorts. No, I don't. It's funny, Chad. I don't trade that stuff. I don't trade it. Every now and again, I'll get in there and do crude oil. Most of my future stuff is with the major indexes, and I'll tell you why. With these commodities, they have such unique characteristics. Not only do they trade at different times of the day, some have very odd hours, but you got to understand that cocoa. This is not a U.S. product. But this is where it's, we're trading on the U.S. markets, but really this is more of an African product and South American product. So that it's different exchanges around the world is where it's going to trade more actively. So I might be trading on a low liquidity time of the day, which is not going to give me the best pricing. They have crazy lock limit downs, and until you've been stuck with a lock limit down or up, you don't know what terror is. It is absolutely a nightmare when you're stuck in a lock limit and you can't do anything about it. So I don't know. I just shied away from commodities. They're exciting. I love watching them because it helps me understand what the markets are doing, how our economy might perform. But yeah, I don't trade them other than crude oil. And I could make a popcorn tray. It might need to make one, but I'm going to bring my popcorn tray today. Maybe I'll start using AI, Margaret. That's a good idea. Maybe this weekend when I have some time, I'll make some new graphics using AI video. All right, everybody. Tomorrow, Dr. Woody Johnson. It's all psychology. The whole show is going to be all psychology, and we'll hopefully be able to answer whatever issues you have. If you have something that's bugging you with regards to trading, the way that you approach things, email me, tradermerlin@gmail.com. Name's on the screen there. Just put it in and email me your questions for Dr. Woody Johnson. We'll get all those answered on tomorrow's show. So hopefully you learned something today. Be safe out there. This week's going to just continue to get wilder and wilder, I think, for the next couple of months. So enjoy. We'll see you guys tomorrow with Dr. Woody Johnson. Take care.